fast as fuck, boy.
Hey, today I'm going to talk about the backstory, basically where it all started and how we got to the point where we're right now, because it's not just interesting to know what we still need to do, I think it's also very cool to know where it came from, because we didn't just make it out of nowhere, we've actually had our eye on this for quite a while, but it's thanks to you that it actually came to life. It all started 3 years back when we actually saw some forum posts from the OS community using our Wooting 1 and Wooting 2 keyboards for specifically OS for low latency. And that brought us slowly to the idea when we're doing this lecker switch development, it's going to have better technology with adjustable activation point, with rapid trigger concept that we had, that this would really be great for us and it would be this niche market where we could focus on, have a lot of fun with. But while we were going through that product development, which was a 4-key device at the time, which you can see right over here or right behind me, we ran into one huge issue. Both the development of the lecker switch as where to do all the productions for the device and the cost of the device for the target group were very difficult to bring home. We were already struggling with the lecker switch development on the main keyboard, that on top of having the struggles of the device was just too much for us, and we were afraid also that the cost price of the device would be too high, so that when we'd be selling it, the price would be too high for OS players and that nobody really wanted to buy it and we could not produce the demand for the device. So we decided at the time, let's just shelve it for another time. It was a cool idea, but we can't do it. Now that was until the 6-stage started shipping, you guys started using the 6-stage and players like MREG breaking new records with new PP barriers and professional players just receiving the 6-stage and breaking their own personal records as well, where it became very clear that we were making this huge impact in the OS community with exactly the things that we would have hoped for, but then better than what we could have think of. So we decided in August, we have to make an OS device again. We have to bring it off the shelf, put it back in production, but this time do it the way it has to be done, which is mass production style with plastic injection to get the cost down, but then still with the Wooting quality that we want to see and with the high performance of our lecker switches and analog technology. However, we had no manpower, we had no time to work on it because Kevin, the main industrial designer in our team, was busy with a different project. So it wasn't up until we had Rouhan join the team that we had time to make the device, which was last year November. The thing is, it was also her first keyboard project, so it was also quite challenging for her, but she did a really great job in a very short amount of time and brought the to life, and it all started with the concept. So at the beginning of the project, we started with, okay, these are the requirements for the device, which is like the device cannot skid around. It needs to have RGB because it makes it more fun to play around with. It needs 3 keys, have another 3 buttons for reset, quit, and quick hotkeys basically. And we still need to be able to produce it for a low cost so that it's affordable and preferably at the $50 mark. And as we made those requirements, we brought in also Tokaku, who is a rhythm game YouTuber, and she looked at our requirements, she gave some feedback about rhythm games in general and also the OS community and what you guys might like. She also confirmed with us that the 3-key device is a good direction to take, and that really helped us in the whole development process to get more confirmation, to get more security in the decisions that we were making along the way. So once we had those requirements, Rowan could get started making 3 designs based on those requirements. And the first designs are kind of like the out-of-the-box thinking designs to kind of, let's see if we can do something completely different here. So we had these 3 designs, of which the first one had a wrist rest attached to it, the second one was a vertical one, so it would be more ergonomic, and the third one was that you could interconnect the devices together so you could use multiple with one plug into the computer. However, when reviewing these 3 different ideas, we could kill off a lot of things already quickly because nobody really wanted to use a wrist rest anyway, and the few that did, we could just make the device design lower so you don't need a wrist rest at all. Then when it came to the vertical part, it would be more uncomfortable and not actually faster or better. And then interconnecting wasn't really necessary because you could just connect 2 different devices on a computer and still play OS with them separately, so it didn't make sense to connect them already together and then to the computer. But what it did do is kill off all these like wild ideas and kind of narrow down what is the most important part about the device. So then we could get into more of the mood board, which is let's see what kind of designs we like and which direction we want to take with the design, with the requirements that we have. So based on the mood board, Rouhan went to make another 3 iterations, and based on those 3 iterations, we chose out different kind of things that we liked, and she made another 3 iterations, and in that way we started narrowing down more and more the design that we liked. And what you can see from these 3 designs behind me, which gets closer to the device that we have right here, is that one of them has the light bar, which is the middle one, which was one of the requirements to have RGB be more playful. Then you see there's one that's a little bit more rounded, and you even have a pill-shaped one. And we kind of took a look at these 3 different designs and combined it together and made it what it is right now, which is the device. So when we finished those designs, we had to look at, okay, what are we going to do mechanically and how are we going to produce this in a more affordable way, which we kept in mind all the way from start to end. So for example, the top case and the bottom case is actually made from one mold. It's injected in one time. The buttons are made of silicone, which is very affordable. The PC plate here, the whole PC light bar that you have here, that's also the light bar on the edges, and it's also where the switches are installed into. So it's just one whole part, and it saves a lot of cost just by having a smarter design and putting it together nicely. Then there were things like, okay, we're gonna click together everything, but we still want you to be able to take it apart so that if you do break something, it's very easy to replace. So we added 2 screws, so you can just unscrew, remove the bottom part. And this kind of also was the start of the idea of, hey, you know what we can also do is replace the bottom part with like a brass bottom or an aluminum bottom, so you can increase the weight, which was also one of the requirements. We don't want the device to skid around. So not only do we have a full silicone pad on the bottom, we would also have more weight on top of it so it would not skid around at all. So these are all these kind of things that we're looking at when it came to the mechanical design. And at the same time, we were working on the schematics for the electronics. So to make a PCBA, we had to find out which parts of our Wooting keyboards are we going to use, which one are we going to eliminate, so we can get the right cost price, so we can get that $50 mark that we really want. Once we completed that idea, we started to make the 3D designs, and more importantly, before we made any final decision on both the PCBA, the electronic board, and the whole mechanical parts, we did a simulation of all the RGB and light around the whole bar, because that is and was the most challenging thing, is how does light go around in the device, and can we make the colors go smoothly, seamlessly around the device or not? So we had all these crazy simulations going to find out how does the light bounce everywhere, to kind of figure out how we're going to position the RGB LEDs, how should we make the light bars to spread around the light, because the LEDs are so close to the edge of the device, so there's like a spotlight effect, and how can we eliminate that, diffuse it more. And that was very challenging. And at some point we made a decision, this is the way we're going to take it and do it. We made the PCBA design, we made the final decision on how to do the LEDs and the light bar, and started to make a mock-up. And that brought us into one of the first phases, official phases to say it that way, which is EVT, and it stands for Engineering Validation Test. The Engineering Validation Test is basically the phase in which we check the electronic board to see if it's working as we expect it to work. But a very big requirement for us for the electronic board was also that the RGB in the device would be spread around nicely, and one had impact on the other just as much as the mechanical part has an effect on how the light is spread around the device. So we also wanted to make a mock-up at the same time. So usually with EVT, you don't necessarily need to make a mock-up of the device, but in this case we did. And a mock-up is basically a CNC'd version of the device. So these are made of plastic, but it's all CNC'd out exactly as the mechanical drawings. So we can test the whole mechanical structure, but more importantly with the EVT phase, we could take a look at all the RGB parts. Now based on that review, we found out there are some things that we still need to tweak, and that's getting very close to the phase we're in right now. So we're pivoting towards a phase called DVT, which is Design Validation Tests. And that is all about making it the first production model of the device using the tooling and the molds of all the separate parts. Before going in there with the mock-up, you want to confirm all the mechanical parts. So for example, the buttons are too heavy to press, which we also found out with the EVT and making this mock-up. So we're going to have lighter buttons. We also found out the buttons are getting obstructed a little bit, which can be smoother. So there's a small change to the buttons. we found that the light bar can be done just a little bit better. So there's a small adjustment to the light bar to make this light spread better. And then we go into like another mock-up version where we can check it again. And if that is all okay, we can start open tooling, which will bring us into that DVT phase. While that was all happening at the same time, we also had to prepare for the launch of the device, and we had to nail down a theme and a name. So it started off with a name. So the obvious name that everybody thought was like, oh, you should call it FreeHE, but come on. That's pretty boring, right? I mean, it's such a cute device, it's such a nice small device, and it's for a very specific audience. We can do better than that. So we had things like klein, tap tap, tappity tap, not only but also oh, and all the other similar sounding emoticons, even something like deaf stream, for example, looking at, making it more relatable to the target group. And in the end, we decided for because we wanted to be a cute device, we wanted to be a companion on your table. We felt that it was a fun name to pronounce. It's especially going to be fun when the reviewers say let's see if they're going to say or if they're going to say oh. Because that would make it a lot of fun. Definitely call them out if they don't say anyway, so that makes it so much more fun. It was very fun internally, and we're like, okay, let's do it. We'll find out. It's fun. It's fun to do. It's a fun device anyway. So we decided on the name, but then we still needed a theme, and the theme is very important because it kind of translates and communicates a experience, a feeling, and design of the device. So Eric was working on a theme while also thinking about it being a companion on your desk. And he came up with the colors and the theme that brings together the page, the video, and the device and makes it what it is. And then we got close to launch, and we had this one idea that we wanted to do, which was an arcade edition, and it would basically take different materials of the device, change it into this like neon glow-in-the-dark type of colors, and add patterns that felt and looked like this like back in the 90s arcade halls at its peak, that it's like a dark room with the different neon lights and with all the arcade machines bleeping, blopping and making lights and trying to grab your attention. But we just didn't have enough time to complete the whole theme, so we decided to just shelve it for another time, that we can actually really flesh it out, because we didn't want to half-ass that theme, so we shelved it. Now, while we're in this process of thinking, and as we got closer and closer to the launch, we were also being pushed more and more to think about, okay, every time when we do a campaign, we want to involve the community as much as we can, and what can we do with the UwU device that would really bring the community together? So for example, with the 6-stage, we had all these like different icons and different images on the PCBA. Well, that's not from us, that's actually from founders of the campaign that made those designs, and we permanently put onto the product. We also had names on the box, which is also from founders of the 6-stage. All their names are on the box, so if you ever wondered what those UV prints were, those are actually names of founders. And we wanted to do something similar with the UwU. Problem is, it's a very small device. We can't do exactly the same, the box will be too small, and we're gonna get a lot more founders than we did with the 60HE because it's also more affordable. So then we thought of something else. What if we make collector keycaps and we let these prominent members of the community make a design and we add it to the product and people can start collecting it and trading it with each other. And it came off with this kind of idea of like, well, it's a fun idea, but executing it is gonna be kind of and difficult. But it was so cool that we decided, okay, let's do it. And thankfully, when we executed on it and we reached out to everybody, most of them were very welcome to it. They were very cooperative, sharing a design they liked, and they liked the idea that we were doing. We also shared the device, so they knew ahead of time what was coming. And while they shared their ideas, we had Jasmine working on all these designs, and she did such a great job. The keycaps really brought it all together, where we felt confident enough this campaign is going to be awesome. These keycaps are going to bring the community closer together. They're going to start trading with each other, or well, hopefully. And we really want you to just enjoy it and have fun with it. And hopefully we can start enlarging that collection so there's more available over time. And it's just a really fun aspect of it. So I hope you've learned some new things about the whole context of the UwU device and the backstory. I hope you can see that we've actually been wanting to make this for quite a while, so it's a lot of fun for us to also be working on it finally. and that we are actively listening to what you're saying. We're not ignoring it, but we just can't share until it's ready. And now that it's ready, it's so much fun to start sharing about stuff. And that's also where I want to end the note, because in the next update, I'm going to share more stuff on the UwU development. Until then, bye-bye.